Alright guys, now moving on, we're going to touch on a girl example here. Now this female is 19, she's 5'6", and she's 130 pounds. She's lightly active and is pretty much, a little bit sedentary, but she's active about 1 to 3 days per week. Now, full disclosure, I'm going to run through these fast. We're going to do 4 total examples of each. So we already did the one for the losing fat of the man. Then we're going to do another losing fat for the woman to give you kind of an overview of different examples, different, structures, different builds, how I would approach and implement them. Because like I touched on in the last long lecture, everything's different. There's no specific science to prescribe a one-size-fits-all for every single person along the list. You have your males, you have your females, you have different builds, you have different approaches depending on if they want to lose fat or build muscle. So I think you'll get the most bang for your buck and the most, benefit to watching me go through a bunch of examples. First and foremost, if you need, we're going to be going and using the same principles from that overall lecture that I just did, which was basically the man's building muscle overview and example. So if you need to go back and watch that, so you can kind of take these next 7, and kind of, apply that to those. If you already feel like you have this down, then go ahead and skip ahead to lecture. I believe I pinpointed them all out here. Go ahead and skip to lecture 12. That will run you through all the examples. So like I said, this will be the first women's example of losing fat. Then we'll roll through another 2 examples of men and women losing fat. Then we'll touch on 4 examples of men and women, 2 of each, of building muscle. So that'll be the next 7 lectures. The first one, like I said, was the one that just passed. So if you need more, go ahead and watch the one that we just did. If not, then go ahead and skip to lecture 12, okay? And I will see you guys there. So let's jump ahead with the 19-year-old female here that wants to lose fat. She's 5'6", she's 130 pounds, and she's lightly active. We're going to roll through these quickly. I'm just going to give you, exactly my approach. So let's go ahead and calculate this. So for her, this female, her maintenance calories would be 1899, right? Now we touched on the fact that you want to shoot to lose a pound a week. So me specifically, depending on, I always recommend going 500 calories less when you're trying to lose fat. But if you're already kind of low on that lower end of the spectrum and you're, 2,000 calories is like the general overview consensus of what to prescribe for, the general public. The lower you are on that totem pole, if you're closer to 1,000, the less down you're going to want to go. So if this person was like already 1,400 or 1,500 maintenance calories, if they're a little bit lower, well then you wouldn't want to go to 900 calories per day. That's just ridiculous. So I would recommend maybe in that case dropping at 300, maybe 250, and going at it slower because like we touched on in the last lecture, it's all about consistency and hitting your goals over a consistent period of time. So this one's about 1,900. It's not that bad. I'm going to drop this 400 calories instead of 500 because it's all about the consistency. We're still under our maintenance calories, and if we hit that goal consistently, we're going to lose fat over the long period of time consistently, like I said. So we'll just round it up to 1,900. And we'll drop that, 400 calories. So that ends up being 1,500 calories for maintenance, correct? Now let's go with the protein, the fats, and the carbs. With women, like I said, with men, I never recommend going below 60 when losing fat. With women, I never recommend going below, sometimes it's 40 to 45. I never recommend going below 45. So you can go 40 if you want, but like I said, I like to give people the higher fat because I know personally it's more important with men because they have testosterone and fat plays a lot of different things, delivering micronutrients and kind of breaking down and building the muscle and kind of producing your hormones. But it also plays a big role with women too in estrogen and a lot of different things. It's a little bit beyond the scope of this video and this course, kind of getting in and tying into each factor of each micronutrient. But just keep in mind that you probably don't want to go below 40, and I would recommend staying above 45. So 45 grams of fat. So we'll go 45 grams, and that equates to how many calories? So you'll remember if we pull up the calculator here real fast, you'll remember there's 9 calories per gram. So we have 45 times 9, and that will give us our fat calories. That's 405 calories of fat. So 45 grams, 405 calories of fat. Now let's move on to I'm all over the place here, to the protein. Now women, like I said, I like to recommend about half of your fat, half of your grams of protein per pound of body weight. With men, it's about the same. So with men, it's about 1. So if a man weighed 170 like we touched on before, well, typically speaking, on average, you'd want around 170 grams of protein to build and maintain that muscle. Women need protein as well. There's a lot of valuable things in protein, namely, especially for losing fat, that it's going to keep you satiated and full. But on top of that, they don't need as much as men. So if this girl specifically was 130 pounds, well, I would divide that by 2, and then you're looking at, what, 65? For 130 pounds, so 65 would be about half, so let's go 65. You can even take that up to 70 if you really wanted, and maybe depending on your diet, if you liked, more meats in your diet, go take it up a little bit more. If you don't like as much fat, take it a little bit down less, but typically speaking, you want about half of the calories of half of the grams per pound of body weight for a female for protein. So let's take that to 65 grams for her, and that will, like I said, 4 calories per gram of protein. So 4 times 65 equals 260. So she's then getting 260 calories worth of protein and 405 calories worth of fat. So to find out how many grams and how many calories of carbs, guess what? We need to take the 1500 and subtract 260 and 405 in calories to get how many calories of carbs, so then we can then calculate the grams of carbs. So to walk you through that, 1500 minus 260 minus 405. 1500 minus 260 minus 405 will give us the calories of carbohydrates that she can take in. So this is a little bit of a high number, and it would scare a lot of girls. So because I know I have a girlfriend and I know exactly how they think carbs are the enemy. A lot of people think carbs are the enemy, and that's actually false. That's not 100% true. Carbs are not the enemy. They're literally the number one source of energy for your body. So if you keep yourself energized, you keep yourself full and satiated, every macronutrient plays a part, just like every micronutrient plays a part. Carbs are not your enemy. Protein is not your enemy. Fat is not your enemy. In fact, you just want a healthy balance of each. You want healthy, and I put healthy in quotes, healthy calories, coming from all of those. Now, if you're eating, bad fat, you're eating McDonald's every day, or you're eating Twinkies every day, then granted, that fat is not good for you. However, it's all about balance. You can fit those things in, here and there, as long as you're keeping a balanced approach. There are healthy fats, just like there are healthy carbs, complex carbs versus simple carbs. A little bit also beyond the scope of this course, because we're not talking about, full-on nutrition in depth. But if you have any questions, obviously just reach out and ask. I'd love to answer them for you. I study nutrition in depth a lot. Just trust me when I say that fat is not your enemy and carbs are not your enemy, as long as you keep a balance. Okay? So she's 835. If you wanted to go a little bit more in fat or a little bit more in protein to lower your carbs and you're more comfortable with that, totally fine. Just make sure your calculations are off. So 835 calories, and that would be, we'll just put that in right now, 835 calories of carbs. Now we're going to move on to how many grams that is. So what do? We divide it by 4, because there's 4 calories per gram of carbs. That ends up being 208.75. We'll just round that up to 209. So she then gets 209 grams of carbs, and that would be her daily prescription. That would be her daily, nutrition overview of her goals that she'd want to hit to lose about a pound. Remember, we only did 400 calories less, so a little bit less than a pound, about a pound a week of fat. So 1,500 calories total is her daily caloric intake goal to lose fat. 65 grams of which of protein, which equates to 260 calories, 45 grams of fat, which equates to 405 calories, 209 grams of carbs, which equates to 835 calories in total. And overall, as long as she consistently hits that, she will consistently lose fat. Now, a couple weeks go by, and something I touched on in the last lecture, you are going to have to readjust that, because you'll be at a lower maintenance calories, because you'll be a little bit lighter with less fat. But let's hit one bird with one stone. We're not trying to get too ahead of ourselves. Let's just get you losing fat first, and then, obviously we'll readjust in the future. Now, full on disclosure, I'm going to jump through the next, 6 very, very fast, because I kind of touched on these in depth, with you a little bit here. But if at any point this confuses you, or the counting of calories confuses you, don't necessarily worry, because you can either count the grams, or you can count the calories, or you can count both. But you don't have to count them all. You can count one or the other. On top of that, when we end these lectures, I'm going to walk you through examples of taking nutrition facts and showing you how to calculate your calories by yourself without the apps that are recommended at the beginning of the course, so you understand how to do that better. And on top of that, you if you want to and you don't want to actually calculate them, you can just scan everything in or search everything in on Lose It or MyFitnessPal, and those will count the calories for you and total them up, so you don't have to do that yourself. So don't worry about any of that. We're going to roll through all that here in the coming lectures. And the next 6 lectures, we're going to do 2 more losing fat, a man and a woman, and then 4 building muscle, and then we'll jump into the other stuff in the course.